Now, a lot of people are aware of this happening, a lot of this, and they're working on a solution. One of the solutions is what they call rolling out central bank digital currencies as the answer to the global economic crisis. So what does that mean? It means having some kind of currency which is regulated by the bank, the central bank. Your local bank, whether it's Barclays or Lloyds, closes down and your account is merged into this central bank. They can then determine your buying and your selling, and they can determine your use of your money. And if they don't like what you're doing with it, they can cut it off. In fact, they can even take half of it for themselves or more than half of it themselves to deal with the crisis. It's a big threat. And the United Nations is already working on something which it calls our common agenda, with a summit of the future which is going to take place in September 2024. That's 2 or 3 months' time, which will bring about what they call a global digital compact and reforms to the international finance architecture. Okay, so what does that mean? This is an article I got off the Prophecy Newswatch, and it says they propose a new apex body in charge of the entire financial system that will enhance its coherence and align its priorities with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This could be done through a twice-yearly summit between the Group of Seven, that's the G20, heads of leading nations in the world, Economic and Social Council, the UN Secretary General, and the heads of international financial institutions. They will further integrate the G20 with the United Nations into a body that can be described as an Economic Security Council. So they're working on some kind of a bringing together of the leading nations of the world in an Economic Security Council to somehow bring the currencies of the world under control. Does that sound like a good idea to you? And a part of this is going to be the establishment of what they call a Global Digital Compact. To enforce this, they'll give you all a digital identity which you'll need to get onto the internet, to get to pay, buy and sell, and to link into this system. They'll create what they call a cybernetic control system consisting of digitally connected network of people, entities, devices, and things that can easily be directed by those who run the system. Cybernetics has been described as the science of communication and automatic control systems linking both machines and living things. There will be the linking up of people with machines, and so the machines can actually run the people. Does that sound like a good idea to you? No. Giving everybody a digital identity is a cornerstone in this work and is, among other things, seen as a way to meet people's needs. They say reduce poverty, and it may also be used as a control by targeting selected groups who don't go along with the agenda, and they could be excluded from social benefits. Did you get that point? If there are certain people who don't go along with the agenda and cause a nuisance to themselves and publish articles and give talks in churches like this and say that this is not a good idea, they could find themselves being targeted. It's already happening in China. They have a social credit system in which you get credit points and you can use your money if you're a good boy or girl, and you can get them deducted if you're a bad boy or girl and you criticize the government or do something the government doesn't like. The article concludes, will you get your social protection coverage if you don't comply with vaccinations or other measures included to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Probably not. To receive your daily bread, you'll have to obey and accept instructions from the masters that run the show. If the UN declares a planetary emergency, this will have severe consequences for our freedoms, as we experienced during the pandemic. This means tyranny on an unprecedented scale, and it sets the stage for the mark of the beast system outlined in Revelation chapter 13, in which you can't buy or sell unless you have some kind of identifying mark which gets you onto the system. Do you think that's far-fetched, or is it happening now? I think it's happening behind the scenes. They're not telling you about it. You won't hear anybody on the BBC telling you about this. You won't hear anybody from the Conservative or the Labour or the Liberal Dem perhaps telling you about this. But you'll hear me telling you about it because I think you need to know. And again, if we have a government which is already inclined to be internationalist in its outlook and wants to join in with this kind of thing, and we have a massive Labour majority, then they're going to push us into it at the drop of a hat. Okay, that's the bad news.